Hello, everybody. Welcome to Weekly Wednesday at the Business School of AI. I am your host, Ananya Sen. I am a principal software engineer and a trained AI PM of this class. The theme this month is data and humans to build more meaningful and safer AI solutions. This aligns beautifully with our new class about AI ethics. Let's hear from our fabulous speaker today.
Here we go, Ananya. Yes, Ananya, it's all yours.
Yeah, thanks so much, Manon, for presenting this topic, synthetic media and deepfakes. It's definitely on top of mind. And in social media, we're seeing these everywhere. I'll let you introduce yourself. I'm looking forward to a very fun topic.
Thank you. Really nice being here. Let me start by sharing my screen. Thank you for the invitation. It is a topic that is on top of my mind as well. And I really enjoy sharing, but I also find it important to share my thoughts because the world is changing rapidly. So I work as a strategic specialist on digital transformation at the Dutch police, which means monitoring trends.
The Dutch police. This is so cool. Sorry,
maybe everyone can mute, because what I wanted to ask if you could ask your questions, and I'm really also looking forward to your ideas. Maybe you have experience with deepfake synthetic media. Please share them. The idea is also to have a lot of discussions. Next to my work, which is about monitoring trends in technology, their effect on society, and the possible consequences of for the work and role of the police, which I think the most important is that we should be forefighters for privacy in this new world where data is abused behind the scenes. And that's also for my interest in these topics that I have met Sudha and many others in this community. So I'm really happy to be here. And besides my work, I'm organizer of the Sensemakers community in Amsterdam. And this is a volunteer-based community dedicated to the sharing of knowledge, ideas, hands-on experience, but also connecting people. So today is about synthetic media. And I think it's best to start with a short video.
What's up, TikTok? You guys cool if I play some sports? I love it. More for the audio experience as much as the momentum. Hey, listen up, sports and TikTok fans. If you like what you're seeing, just wait till what's coming next.
I suppose you all have concluded immediately that this video is fake because everyone knows that Tom Cruise hates golf. So how can this be real? But how fake is it? That's the question. And I'll get back to that later because I think it's good to start with a definition of synthetic media. Ananya, I got a message that there are that the chat is active. I cannot see the chat, so if you think there's an important question, just let me know.
Yes, absolutely.
Because I can see your face, but I cannot, unfortunately, see the chat as well. Well, synthetic media, my definition, but I think it's the general definition, is about AI-generated or manipulated media. For example, images, faces, sound, voices, text, even moving people. In fact, all digital information and signals can be generated or manipulated with AI. So also IoT signals. And within this great group of synthetic media, we have this subgroup called deepfakes. And deepfakes involve a specific form of AI, which uses existing images as a training material. And originally, the term was also meant for images in the context of crime or disinformation. But what you see at the moment is that the term is really a hype, so it's used for everything. Like the meta-humans, which you can create yourself to use in games or as an avatar, but also for positive applications like Revoice, which is cloning people's voices for people with ALS, that if they start speaking through the computer, they don't have this really computerized voices, but they have their own voice with their own timbre. And grief counseling, being able to speak to your near ones, your dear ones who have died. And so deepfake as a definition doesn't really exist anymore, but originally it was meant for these three groups that fit in this theory. And that is face swaps, where you just have your source, you have a donor file, and you just copy this face over the source, and you get a deepfake image. I'll give some examples during my talk. Then you have style GANs, and that's what I talked about, the training material. And with style GANs, you generate completely new people, completely new faces. And I don't know if you know, but there is this old website, thispersondoesnotexist.com. And this is using these techniques. And every time you hit the refresh button, it generates a new face. And there's deep puppetry. And in deep puppetry, you take over the face yourself, even live. I will show a recording, but it is also possible to do it live, where you have a person and you take over his face or her face. And then your eye movement and mouth movement will be translated into this face. Now, why are deepfakes so hot lately, and why does it get so much attention? This has to do with, among others, the accessibility. Anyone now can make deepfakes. And if you combine these deepfakes with the social media possibilities to target people in small groups or even individually, you can imagine that the impact is enormously, especially given our deep-seated tendency to believe what we see and hear ourselves. Our brains are not adjusted to the digital environment. They are still adjusted to natural surroundings, where what you see is often what you see, a bird or anything. So our brains are wired in such a way to believe what we see and hear, to believe our senses. But what worries people most is the liar's dividend. And the liar's dividend is the ability to claim with impunity that something real is fake. And you see this phenomenon increasingly common, even politicians, that real information, real evidence is dismissed as fake. But when real evidence can be dismissed that easily as deepfake, it affects our trust in such a society, our trust in the digital infrastructure, but also in journalists, police, judges, affecting in this way the fundamentals of our democracy. And what I'm talking about now is deliberate deception. But the question is, and that's my most important question for today, is how important the difference between fake and real will be. Because what is fake and what is real will get a different meaning in the coming years. And this has to do with the fact that more and more online content is generated synthetically, fake. And experts even believe that within 6 years' time, 90% of the online content will be synthetic. And this happens visibly in films, games, or these examples. varying from human clones. Sorry? Could everyone please mute their microphone?
Yeah, please mute yourself.
Let me see if I can mute.
Yeah, I did.
You
it.
muted?
Yeah.
Okay, super, thank you. So 90% of the online content will be synthetic. And here we have clones of real humans. For example, this newsreader. We have Dali, who in his museums comes out of these big phones, makes a selfie with visitors. And we also see completely synthetic people, humans. And that's really interesting for businesses as well. A nice example is these synthetic models. It's very expensive for companies, for clothing, fashion, to hire a lot of different models to have everyone recognize themselves. So this company, SAF, a lingerie store, has synthetic models, and you can choose the skin color of the model. And in this way, it's much more inclusive because everyone can see the color and the style of the lingerie on their own skin. And this has had a real push because of COVID. Also in marketing, commercials, more and more synthetic people have been used. And the advantage is also, like with the newsreader, they won't run into problems in their private time, and they can work 24/7 without getting tired or asking for a pay raise. And of course, there's this downside of people losing their job. But from the perspective of business, pure business, no ethics, this really is an advantage. And with the style GANs that I talked about, you can also generate human faces the way you want them. And there is this, there are more, but this is an example of a stock photo site where you now can generate stock photos with the people that you are, or the children that you are specifically looking for. And this is now a service online that everyone can use. And it allows you also to make training videos or communication or do PR without any extra effort or translators, reaching a broad audience. And I have taken this example from Synthesia as an example of fully synthetic media, voice and face, doing a training video for you in different languages.
In this video, you will learn how to react in the case of an unhappy customer in one of our stores.
O atendimento ao cliente é fundamental e é necessário aprender a lidar com clientes irritados e descontentes, que podem não ter recebido o nível de serviço que esperavam.
So you see there are really many opportunities where you can use synthetic media, and these are already being applied in many different kind of businesses. But a lot is happening also behind the scene, because these were examples that we can encounter when we go online and different shopping. But authentic images are also unnoticed by us, replaced by synthetic data, like in video meetings. To save bandwidth or to give you the sensation that you're really talking to each other, audio and image on the receiving end are increasingly artificially generated and adjusted. And this process has been going on for some time. For example, in our phones, where it started with automatic red eye correction, and where now AI, built-in AI, determines how something should look. And this came out last year when people wanted to take photos and videos of the orange skies during the bushfires in California. And I have this video to show you, because the embedded AI in a lot of phones decided that this orange sky could not be real, should not be reality. So in many photos and videos, and you can see it here live happening, it was adjusted, the sky color to gray. And this is just to emphasize what is going on already and how it is going on unnoticed by us. So what to think of this. Deepfake skies generated by our phones without us even being aware. Deepfake models on websites or people that read the news or provided training. Does it matter? Do we really need to know? Has synthesized conferencing, video conferences, is meant to have a good interaction. So it can contribute to a more engaged or intimate conversation if you look each other in the eyes, like I'm trying to do now. Because normally we look down to where we see the images. And there's no malicious intent, but would you want to know? I'm really curious how you think of this. For example, for the police, in some cases, it might be relevant. For example, if being really involved in a conversation online is used as an alibi, then we need to know what is automatically adjusted in the technology to know if someone was not hacking another site at the same time. But there's also something about feelings, emotions. What if you have a synthetic teacher? Would that be acceptable? So looking forward to your reactions in the chat. And so synthesized media are everywhere. And what I just said are many positive applications, like personalized branding, workers, therapy, the deepfake therapy, handing over information in someone's own language, but you can also use famous or inspiring people to give the message for you in a different language. And on the other hand, we have the malicious intents, disinformation, spying, crime, deepfake photos of non-existent people, like we were talking about. They are increasingly used in scams, disinformation, activism, and even espionage, which was this photo was used for on LinkedIn. And the main problem, however, is that is porn still, unsolicited porn. And what you see is that this is also a growing problem. This is still the most used malicious or most maliciously used application of deepfakes. Last year, for example, a bot was discovered on Telegram. And what people could do, they could share a photo of a person with this bot, and they got a fabricated nude picture of that person back in a minute, instantly. So given this accessibility, we can expect sextortion to increase significantly, both against boys and girls. And that's something that really worries me. And the only solution I can think of is that we have to change the mentality in society. Now that it can happen to everyone, maybe it shouldn't be a taboo anymore. Because what we see is that young people, they are ashamed of themselves. And that's why they don't dare to ask for help or explain it to their parents, even if it's a fake. And we have had people committing suicide for it. So I think the most important action here is awareness that it can really and will probably really happen to everyone, and that there should not be a taboo on talking about it. So apart from this negative, a real identity can also be faked. For identity theft, for example, to full access systems, the company Synthetic.ai, which also researched the Telegram bot, and has shown that several commercial biometric systems to authenticate people online could be fooled with so-called real-time face swaps via the webcam. It's strange that we are using this more and more, also banks, as a way to authenticate people. And on the other hand, we know already that it's a very vulnerable system. And all you need to do to create synthetic media is a photo. So let me show you an example I made of Sudha, from a picture of Sudha.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining. I'm really happy that we are still going strong with the WeeklyWed and grateful to all the contributors, the speakers we had until now. I hope you enjoyed today.
I should have been showing this at the beginning. But you can see this is a free tool. and it takes the picture and 10 seconds to record what I'm saying. But her face is really moving with me, and we also have the delay of the video conferencing, so probably we always see kind of a delay in the pictures, so we won't be alerted. And of course it has still my voice, and that is why in practice, when you see deepfakes with people, it is often done with a voice actor, and that's also what happened with Tom Cruise. So let's get back to Tom Cruise. This was a professional deepfake. So people say it's very easy, but to do it like he did, it is a professional job. This is Chris Ume, and he trained the AI system with more than 20,000 pictures of Tom Cruise, with hours of video material to train the AI what the effect on the face of Tom Cruise was with different lightnings from different perspectives. And then he used an impersonator. So this person is a professional impersonator of Tom Cruise. He knows the way he moves, he knows his movements, and he can do his voice. So a very professional deepfake, but the whole video is made with this person, and only afterwards a face swap was applied, stitching the face of Tom Cruise on the video. And then even it took him 70 hours per clip, there are more online, to make it so good looking, to adjust all the things you might see in the picture. So this is weeks of work and a top impersonator. When you really want to make a professional deepfake, you need tools, but you've seen what I can do with Sudha, and what everyone can do as a quality. So still a voice actor, but audio is really improving rapidly. And to let you hear the quality from last year, September, which I made with a free tool. So it is the lowest quality possible. But this is the quality you got last September, and then I will let you hear also the quality you can encounter now.
With audio, it is about the replication of sound, whereas the replication of voices is the most relevant, because it is how we recognize and identify people. These sentences are pronounced by my voice clone, trained with only 2 minutes of audio. But because
So only 2 minutes audio, and this is the effect. And I can really hear my own timbre. And how this works with synthetic voices is that you type the message that is then pronounced by the voice clone. And that's also a very big advantage of using cloned voices, because it means that, for example, if you have to do a speech, or like I have to do a talk now, and you want to pre-record it, you always make mistakes, and then you have to re-record it, and it takes a lot of time. Well, if you use your synthetic voice, you just use programs like Overdub, and you can change the text afterwards if you have made a mistake. So this is a technology that we will see used more and more in chatbots. But you can also make your own voice work for you. Just I think 2 weeks ago, this platform was launched, where celebrities can license their voice to others. And those others can use these voices to record audiobooks or commercials. So that's like getting rich while sleeping, because it's your voice clone that's being licensed, and you don't have to work. You don't have to be on location or present anymore. There's also a platform in the porn world, but it will soon also go into other areas, where you can license your face. This will be minted as an NTF and an NFT, and then people can use it in porn movies as to give people control over it. So you see all our biometrics being separated from our bodies and being used for good or for bad. As we see, for example, in frauds, where people get fake phone calls and are asked to share money for it, or are asked to wire money. And because it's the voice they recognize from their chief or CFO, a lot of departments follow up with really indeed transferring the money. Just to show you the progress, I also want to let you listen to this, because what I always said until 1 week ago, 2 weeks ago, is that you can recognize voice clones because there's no emotions in it. But now this company has succeeded in also embedding emotions in synthetic voices. So just to let you hear.
I can still hear voices. Sometimes, if I'm lucky, I hear her. And it's like she's right here with us. Her warmth, her love. And it's her. I just don't understand. What did I do?
Faith. There's something you need to know.
Mom, don't leave me. You can't just go.
You need to find out for yourself.
You have to admit that this is really looking sounding real. I would never have guessed that it was done by a synthetic voice because there's all this emotion in it. So I would think it's voice actors like we're used to with the cartoons that do the voice. Are there any questions yet, or anyone who wants to react on this professional fake voices?
Yeah, I think I did have a question. As Sudha just mentioned in chat, biometrics, we use our face as one of the multi-factor authentication on phones. The face is now might take that over. I mean, audio pattern analysis could have been used. So yeah, I can see some authentication kind of security aspects being challenged here.
Yeah.
And
especially
also,
voice, it will be really hard to detect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then you mentioned about the police protocols of detecting lies. I mean, I wish there was like a configuration that, like the eyes looking down is not can be configured as not a detection thing in that whole algorithm.
No, yeah, I don't think it's like a detection system. What we need to learn, and I'll get back to that later, is we need to know much more about the equipment used.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to handle information differently. We need to know where it comes from. And then you have, if it's from originally a real situation, sorry, you can check with the equipment used if there has been alterations, but also what kind of AI is embedded. So if you know that FaceTime has the possibility to adjust your eyes, then we know that the alibi of I was really talking with someone and we had a very intense conversation gets put into a different light. It can still be true, but we need to know more. So the research is becoming much more elaborative.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like the GDPR consents where we know that the camera might add a filter to correct, or for the equipment we know.
I have lipstick filter.
Oh, okay. That's awesome.
I forgot to put it off, but that's all in the package of the yeah. So my lips are synthetically generated
Nice.
for your information.
We have Pamela Gupta here. She posted her blog link here, and she has some interesting questions around systems for hiding images from facial detection systems. Pamela, would you like to unmute yourself and voice your question?
Yeah, sure. I just didn't want to say too much and not learn from our esteemed guest. Yeah, I did write a blog on weaponization of deepfakes, and very interested in the subversion aspect of deepfakes. So obviously, I was because I'm coming from a cybersecurity background. One of the points I just wanted to mention that voice is very powerful as an authentication mechanism, and so is facial recognition, as you know. And so they have already created a way of subverting facial recognition by hiding images, by hiding the, I can give you more details on a later thing. I don't take over too much time.
Yeah, I know about
adversarial networks is what the technology is, GAN.
Yeah, there are several ways to use it, for example, to protect your own photos. Like with Fox, this is a tool, and then you can, it will change pixels in your picture, but leave the image intact. So we will see you will see my face, but pixels have been changed to block facial recognition technologies. The problem only is, and Fox communicated that, is that, for example, Microsoft is now training it on Fox, and I tried to apply it myself, and it's really, in the end, it is an arms race. And the other is, what is also people are trying is data poisoning, so adjusting pictures as to lower the quality of facial recognition system. So that if they take these pictures from open sources or social media, they will not improve facial recognition, but make it worse. And another one to mention in this context, which is I found fascinating, is that McAfee last year in the summer, they succeeded in making a photo of person A that looks to humans as person B, but to the computer as person A, or the other way around. So I think facial recognition is really under pressure, and I'm happy about that. Yeah. And for cybersecurity, these are really important things to know, but the application is still very limited. And what McAfee did, that is really science research. At least I have not heard about an application. What we do see is people who apply for identity papers that they can bring in a morphed photo. So a photo that is a combination of two persons, for example. And that was already in 2018. An artist collective in Germany succeeded in applying for a passport with a morphed photo. Yeah, there's a lot of challenges ahead. Let me save the other questions. What I was saying is that the audio is really getting better, voice clones, but also synthetic audio. But in the end, it doesn't really have to be good. And I think that's something to remember. We don't need good quality to extort money from people. Because our brain, like I said before, we have this deep-seated tendency to believe what we hear and see. And our brains also decide what we believe. And recently I saw an interview with the creator of deepfake therapy, in which people talk to a loved one who has passed away. And it happened to himself. So he did it first himself, and he was amazed how he, and also later others, really were absorbed in the conversation with their last one. Even knowing that it was a voice actor with not the same voice and a not so good quality deep fake. It's from 2 years ago. Your brain determines how the signals are interpreted. And you want to be immersed in that experience. So it doesn't matter if it's really good or not. And that's also the very dangerous thing about synthetic media, because the more senses are affected, the more you want or you will believe what you hear, especially when it appeals to the need, to your need to help, how you wanting to help, or stress. A financial officer calling from an airport with background noise and really in a hurry. And what we see now is that criminals combine these audio calls with sending messages via email or WhatsApp. And then it becomes really difficult for people to know that they're being scammed. And also in this field of text synthesis, there are major developments. And GPT-3 was launched last year. And this is a language model that is being trained on the whole internet. So let me emphasize, it is biased. But using all that information, it has been trained that it now can generate code, can generate pictures. You can say, I want to see a picture of, there's a famous example of an avocado chair, and it generates all kinds of pictures of avocado chairs, poetry, and especially if you train it specifically, for example, on the text of books of a writer, Agatha Christie, it can generate new books in completely the same writing style, choice of words. So what you can do is really improve the authenticity of someone. And that's what we will see in marketing, that based on data in the past, for example, Facebook groups or wherever, they will use these data to train, to know their chatbots or voice bots, to talk in a way that appeals to the people in that group, and they can change it, personalize it for every group. And that's also what criminals can do. And Europol has published a report on this, and is warning that these text synthesis, can be used to fully automate the first steps, the social engineering in phishing and other forms of cybercrime. So that what we can use really in the context of marketing can also be used in the context of criminal marketing. But what people, or what is seen as the really greatest risk of text synthesis is the combination of, sorry, I went one back, is the combination of text synthesis and the functioning of social media and search engines. They prioritize information based on engagement, but if AI is able to post authentic messages on every topic to which other AI can respond, and then they have a discussion together, first of all the bystanders, we real people, will think this is really something, there's really something happening, and this is the major opinion in this area. But because there's so much engagement, it will also be prioritized in our timelines and search engines. And in that way, it can be really weaponized also in the context of disinformation and undermining trust in society. And just to let you see, so it's really dangerous. And I have this real small example of a conversation with GPT-3 just to show you how real it is. It has, certainly it has parents, it has emotions, and the human doesn't even really know that they are talking with a deep fake. And there's a lot of investment going on in detection systems for text bots, as well as in the field for audio. But as far as I could see, this is still all in the scientifically experimental phases. One is furthest in deepfake detection of images. And when I say furthest, I mean this a bit, oh, sorry, I forgot this. This I have added, and because I want to emphasize everywhere I go that technology is really not neutral. And everybody is hyping GPT-3, but based on the internet, it's really racist. And so if you're using these systems, it can never replace people. You always have to have people in the loop. This is an example of how you type 2-3 words and GPT-3 finishes the story for you. And if you, as you can read, it finishes it in a very racist, discriminating way. So that to emphasize, people might, suppliers might come to you that synthetic media, text synthesis is the perfect solution. Be aware that, like other algorithms, it is biased, and even detection systems are biased in gender and in race. And in general, they're not really working very well. And what you see is the headlines, 94% effective, but in reality, this is in certain circumstances with a certain data set and not live online on the internet, on social media. The best tool at this moment came out of a challenge of, I think, Amazon, Microsoft, Facebook, a group of those companies. And that the winner was able to detect 65% of the deepfakes. And it was not mentioned how many false positive. And this is from the tools that are around. This person does not exist. As I explained, this is a website from 2019, so every tool can recognize these photos. But the video from Sudha, and this tool has been around also for a year now, is still not detected by, well, I tried 15 deepfake detectors. So there are several problems with detection. First, they can detect only a small part. And this is partially because they are based on certain deepfake techniques, like style scans. So they're looking for those clues in the system. While, as I explained, everything will be synthetic in the near future. So the challenge will be, how do you recognize normal, not malicious synthetic media versus malintended, malicious synthetic media? Because the only difference between this, which was to show in an educational way, and using her to infiltrate or to connect with people on LinkedIn, is the intent. So tools are not effective at all. And furthermore, if you really look at the numbers, deepfakes are not, there are not so many around yet. What is around much more is silicone masks or cheap fakes, just cut and paste, because that's just as easy. And that won't be recognized by these tools as well. So the only thing that can really help us is looking at it from a different perspective. And that is about combining human intelligence, open source intelligence, and do your research. Do you know, if you see something, always step back, especially if they are trying to appeal to your emotions or to deadlines, like with the CFO fraud. Because those are signals that you really have to be careful to know if something is real or not, or it doesn't even matter. Sorry, that's exactly the wrong words. It doesn't even matter if it's real. It is synthetic, because this photo, this video of mine is partly synthetic as well. But what you want to know is what is the worth. So how you can value this information. What are you going to do with it? Is this person truthful? So you have to investigate the source. You have to look for alternatives, like with this disinformation, to confirm. If you get an email and combined a phone call, you now know that both the email can be spoofed from a certain address. And so it seems to come from me. It can be written in my style. And I can even call you from my own number to confirm that I want to have the money. Always take your own initiative. Call me back on the number you know, and not by dialing the number that I called you from. Get the number from your phone book. So these are ways that we have to train, make people aware as to deal with synthetic media. I think tools can help. For example, if you look at the Dutch at police work, if we have a child porn case, it really doesn't matter if it's synthetic or not. Both are punishable in the Netherlands. But if we have a large database with children, we really would want to filter out all the synthetic ones as to focus our attention on finding out where the real kids are, as to liberate them from that situation. So it is, that's what I want to give as a giveaway. Think very well, is it important to know if something is true or not true, or what the value of the information is, not if it's real or not. Then do some research. And sometimes, like with Tom Cruise or with Sudha in this presentation, it's just entertainment. And then you don't even need to know if it's fake or not. So to summarize, I don't really know how my time is now, sorry. There are threats, as I mentioned here. Unintended inclusion, discrimination from the bias in tools, for trust in society, also in institution, but also each other. There are a lot of risks, and those have to do with cybersecurity as well, real-time spoofing, biometrics, access control, but also think about all these IoT devices that collect information. Criminal acts, and I don't know if it's the right word, this priority setting, but with creating a lot of disinformation, people decide what we focus on. And that means that other cases don't get the attention that they deserve. And there are a lot of opportunities, especially from a business perspective, low cost, independence, in a sense you're not depending on the people working for you, but of course you are depending on platforms, scalability, accessibility, personalized content, protecting one's privacy. I haven't mentioned, we talked a bit about the faces, but there's also this documentary, Welcome to Chechnya, which is about very vulnerable LGBT, I don't know the whole one, sorry, people who are collaborating for this documentary to at least show their story to the world, but they're very vulnerable. So they're deep-faked faces from American people of that community, so that the documentary could still be real, feel real, but you wouldn't recognize the original performance. Training, information therapy, and administrative text synthesis can just use to write books from dead authors, but you can also analyze large amount of text. And what I want to add here is ethics. And I was triggered by Sudha, and I also felt like there is something, an ethical aspect as well, but I couldn't find the words to explain myself, because everything I explain is about quality, transparency, reliability, truth finding. But I had a chat with one of our ethics officers today, and she pointed out to me as an example the enormous impact it has on collaboration, for example, on citizens. People want to be involved in police work, help, or even participate in investigation. And there is this trend to stimulate citizens to film for us, or for us, but at least collect evidence when things go wrong. And the ethical debate that is already going on centers about the risk of contributing, by stimulating this, to a small broader society with horizontal surveillance, people continuously monitoring each other. And we are really seeing negative sides effect of that. And because also without police interference, with ring doorbells, this is already an ongoing unwanted trend. But the question now also is, do we even want to have this material, or should we be using our own material made by ourselves, thus ensuring quality and also transparency at the mineral, for example, by proving authenticity. There is this great initiative, the Content Authenticity Initiative, which is building to provide systems for provenance in digital media, so that you can express objective reality and empower also consumers to evaluate whether what they're seeing is trustworthy. So I think this is also a question what I would like you to hear your opinion about. And I think that wraps it up. Let's have a discussion. If you want to find me, these are my Twitter handles, and I'm on Meetup. We are with the community of sense makers. And on June 16th, we are talking about how all the information collected about us is translated into references or opinions profile of us without them even being really true. So feel free to join. Shall I get back to you, Ananya?
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, we are a little bit short on time,
Sorry.
but yeah,
Yeah,
this is a
I see it
very
now.
broad topic, and absolutely, I mean, we hope AI to enrich our experiences, but of course, every tool can be used maliciously sometimes. Pamela, from the audience, Pamela and Aishatu, sorry if I butchered your name, but very good questions though. Aishatu, she asks, do you have any thoughts on the new draft of European Union? I think is there a GDPR?
There is, yeah. No, it is on my to-do list. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and same from Pamela, like, are you seeing any regulation trends or even the the generative adversarial network training data? I mean, are you seeing any regulations there to control?
I think Europe is focusing on AI in general. And because, like I said, you cannot, I know in America, in some states, there is regulation against deep fakes. But as I explained, what is your definition of deep fakes? Because is the small movie of the clip of Tom Cruise, is that a deep fake? Well, that one, according to definition, is a deep fake. But on the other hand, no, because there is no malicious intent. And like the MIT, I saw that there was shared, they have like a practice environment online where you can check deep fakes or practice with deep fakes. Those are educational. Should that be forbidden? So regulation on deep fake won't do us any good. I think there should be, we are looking into, for example, if the law is sufficient, because will there be any applications that are not within the limits of our law yet? But to be honest, if there is a deep fake photo of mine, I have already plenty of means according to the law to handle that if it's used maliciously. The problem is, however, that the criminals don't care. So, for example, if there's a deep fake porn of me online, it is still online, and forbidding it won't change their behavior.
I think Sudha has a perspective. I'll let her.
I also have a perspective, but I'm going to wait for Sudha.
Yes, thank you. One thing I want to say is we forgot to ask for recording permission at the beginning, so I hope people are okay with the recording. And the other thing, I definitely today, especially when you're talking about this deep fake and everything, I just want to actually remind us that, we want everybody to be very respectful. Otherwise, I'll boot people from this community. I'm saying this because I saw somebody show up shirtless last time, and I'm not going to let the person come back to the community again. So so I just wanted to let people know that if that person is back here again. That reminds me, today when we are talking about this whole deep fake topic, we've been having this discussion about AI ethics and how ethics can be subjective culturally from one place to another, and whether enough corporations care. Our focus when we are looking at the course is about roles in companies and companies caring enough to do the right thing. So this seems to create more of a fine line of what is acceptable. You said that enough, the Tom Cruise video is technically not deepfake because of the intent, and intent can switch. So today you showed my video, which was scary with your voice. But what if today it was just fun and the same thing is used in a different way in future? That's the thing with data, because the data can be used at a different, in a different context. When somebody's friends with me, they don't care, they do this, and then if they're not, what if they choose to do it, use it differently, right? How do you draw that line? Who draws that line?
That's the problem. So you yourself draw that line, but you don't have control over it. But it's the same with all the data that is used of us now, that you give away online. You have you lose control on how it is used. And
I think
so there is, for example, there are laws against, but I don't know, the hate speech. So they're independent of if it's deep faked or not. I think that's the most important. That if your law system is, for example, only applying to real people, then we need to change it to include also your clones or the chatbots controlled by you. For example, I can offend you, and in the Netherlands, you can file a report against me. But what happens if my chatbot offenses you? Is the law including my AI impersonations? I don't know. English is a bit more. I think that's. But Ananya, you had another suggestion.
Oh, yeah. So awareness, you mentioned awareness for humans to take the right decision is key. And hopefully we have these tools, like GAN is being used to generate these deep fakes or synthetic media, but at the same time, we could maybe have a multi-factor way of analyzing multiple things, voice versus facial expressions versus maybe backgrounds, multiple factors for tools to detect that and kind of have that consent or a tooltip that this is
the tooling is awareness. Really but tooling is really a dead-end street, because it is trained against this tooling to improve. And that's also what the Europol warns about, that this offers so many new opportunities also to find passwords or other things. All this intelligence is being weaponized against our detection tools. And it's not only GANs. What if I use different synthetic media generators, like for the meta-humans, to make a face that just looks like me?
Right.
So what I think that being notified is an important one. But I want to ask you, that's what the EU regulation is on. Ashad, thank you for elaborating on that. And that natural persons should be notified. But should we be notified also by our phones that they're changing their sky color? Or should we only not be notified if we're interacting, but interaction is also changing? So would you like to be notified always that something is AI generated? I don't know. What do the people think who are here?
Yeah, Pamela just had to drop, but yeah, she also believes through her blog in weaponizing synthetic media. Regulations, technology would be key. And she says that she actually started a LinkedIn group to have a conversation about this. If we find the link, we can post it.
Okay, it would be really interesting. I would also really be interested in that. Yeah. And for those who want to explore, so OSINT tools for companies, for humans in general, as that's the best tooling you can give people next to awareness. But for those who want to explore further, oh, sorry, I did it as a direct messages to Consuelo. Let's do it to everyone. Witness.org is a platform organization to protect citizen journalism, like activists in dictatorial countries. And they are really looking into deepfakes, and they made this deepfakery series on YouTube. And those are interviews, and those are exactly about the questions we were talking about. With artists, with the maker of Welcome to Chechnya, with people working on provenance, also explaining that provenance, for example, is also a risk, because the more authenticity we embed in the material we make, or for example in your camera, but also in the photos you make with your camera, the easier it becomes for dictators, for example, to discover where those people have been and who they are, maybe. So yeah, there is no black and white.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're too time.
Yeah,
You should have warned me before.
Amazing topic. Yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, but I want to respect your time. And yeah, any closing thoughts, trends, what we can do?
Can I jump in with one question, comment? Manon, remember we were at event where this group, Rebecca Tweed's law firm, they were reviewing what are the weapons that are used for tracking by the New York Police Department. In that event, I remember somebody making a comment about how they do not want to be notified if something is an AI. They thought it was against their peace to know that something was an AI, that they were being monitored. They did not want to know that. So it's possible with the same deepfake concept, there will be a privacy line that somebody might draw and say, I don't want to know about it. I would rather think that is Manon or Sudha or somebody and just live in peace, instead of knowing that they are faking it for whatever reason and losing, and they lose peace because of that. So that's where I think it becomes a line where, how do you protect privacy? And then where is it on the other end where it is not privacy, but it is kind of crossing the line at a global level, that it is unethical, that you don't accept that. So do you see any standards that's going to evolve? And Europe usually takes the lead on these things?
Not yet, but I really like your comment. We have this saying in Holland, blessed are the ignorant. You can, not knowing can give you a much easier life if it lasts. And so no, I think we are very ahead with this information yet. We're starting in the Netherlands, we're really at point zero, starting to think about the new aspects synthetic media bring. Regulation on European level is still very abstract. So I'm trying to build use cases or examples, scenarios that we can use to think about what kind of regulation do we need. And Ashatu, I think you have a really good point in the, and maybe that's when we should conclude, Ananya. The data used to create deep fakes is in fact partly personal, because it depends also on the way it is generated. If it's trained by your data, it is your personal data, because your biometrics are even extra protected, at least in the Netherlands and the European Union. So those are special personal data. But you still can generate me in other ways, like the meta-humans, the people who are created for movies. You can use them to mold my face as well. But it is more difficult now. But I do agree that, yeah. So it's hard. Sometimes you can categorize them as personal data. But would it be, but not always. Oh, sorry, I found it such a good idea, but when I think about it, it's much more, it is really complex. So maybe if people want to keep on talking about it, let me know. And if there is this community also talking about it, I'm really interested to participate. And also witness.org is a very interesting community organization to add your wisdom to as well. I learn a lot from them.
We've been talking about AI ethics, and we have a course called Career Pivot to AI Ethics, mostly focused on companies, as I said earlier, right? And we want people to go take active roles, not to go create conflict, but just to do their part in various different roles. So we are going to add this to the mix because we were not thinking about deepfakes. We were just saying, how do you build product? How do you get your customers to want to do ethical things in their, mainly focused on data ethics, but this adds a whole new dimension, especially Aishatu's question about whether deepfake is personal data. So it's amazing. You got us thinking. You always make us, expand our horizons to a whole new different dimension. So that's wonderful. So back to you, if you have any closing thoughts, because I was asking that question right when Ananya was asking that. So back to you, Manon.
And no, please share, spread the awareness that the world around us is fake, synthetically AI generated more and more, and that we need to learn to interpret, to give value to information in new ways.
Yeah, I think the